Neville Goddard, Chapter 3, Power of Imagination, from the book Out of This World. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. Men claim that a true judgment must conform to the external reality to which it relates. This means that if I, while imprisoned, suggest to myself that I am free and succeed in believing that I am free, it is true that I believe in my freedom, but it does not follow that I am free, for I may be the victim of illusion. But because of my own experiences, I have come to believe in so many strange things that I see little reason to doubt the truth of things that are beyond my experience. The ancient teachers warned us not to judge from appearances because, say they, the truth need not conform to the external reality to which it relates. They claim that we bore false witness if we imagined evil against another, that no matter how real our belief appears to be, how truly it conforms to the external reality to which it relates, if it does not make free the one of whom we hold the belief, it is untrue and therefore a false judgment. We are called upon to deny the evidence of our senses and to imagine as true of our neighbor that which makes him free. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. To know the truth of our neighbor, we must assume that he is already that which he desires to be. Any concept we hold of another that is short of his fulfilled desire will not make him free and therefore cannot be the truth. Instead of learning my craft in schools where attending courses and seminars is considered a substitute for self-acquired knowledge, my schooling was devoted almost exclusively to the power of imagination. I stayed for hours imagining myself to be other than that which my reason and my senses dictated, until the imagined states were vivid as reality, so vivid that passers-by became but a part of my imagination and acted as I would have them. By the power of imagination, my fantasy led theirs and dictated to them their behavior and the discourse they held together, while I was identified with my imagined state. Man's imagination is the man himself, and the world as imagination sees it is the real world, but it is our duty to imagine that all is lovely and of good rapport. Philippians 4:8. In meditation, when the brain grows luminous, I find my imagination endowed with the magnetic power to attract to me whatsoever I desire. Desire is the power imagination uses to fashion life about me as I fashion it within myself. I first desire to see a certain person or scene, and then I look as though I were seeing that which I want to see, and the imagined state becomes objectively real. I desire to hear, and then I listen as though I were hearing, and the imagined voice speak that which I dictate as though it had initiated the message. I could give you many examples to prove my arguments, to prove that these imagined states do become physical realities, but I know that my examples will awaken in all of who have met the like of who are not inclined towards my arguments. A most natural incredulity. Nevertheless, experience has convinced me of the truth of the statement, He calleth those things which be not as though they were. Romans 4:17. For I have in intense meditation called things that were not seen as though they were, and the unseen not only became seen, but eventually became physical realities. By this method, first desiring and then imagining that we are experiencing that which we desire to experience, we can mold the future in harmony with our desire. But let us follow the advice of the prophet and think only the lovely and the good, for the imagination waits on us as indifferently and as swiftly when our nature is evil as when it is good. Desire and imagination are the enchanter's wand of fable, and they draw to themselves their own affinities. They break forth best when the mind is in a state akin to sleep. I have written with some care and detail the method I use to enter the dimensionally larger world, but I shall give one more formula for opening the door of the larger world. In a dream, we are usually the servant of our vision rather than its master. But the internal fantasy of dream can be turned into an external reality. In dream, as in meditation, we slip from this world into a dimensionally larger world, and I know the forms in dream are not flat two-dimensional images which modern psychologists believe them to be. They are substantial realities of the dimensionally larger world, and I can lay hold of them. I've discovered that if I surprise myself dreaming, I can lay hold of any inanimate or stationary form of the dream, a chair, a table, a stairway, a tree, and command to awake while firmly holding on to the object of the dream. I am pulled through myself with the distinct feeling of awakening from dream. I awaken in another sphere, holding the object of my dream, to find that I am no longer the servant of my vision, but its master. For I am fully conscious and in control of the movements of my attention. It is in this fully conscious state, when we are in control of the direction of thought, that we call things that are not seen as though they were. In this state, we call things by wishing and assuming the feeling of our wish fulfilled. Unlike the world of three dimensions, where there is an interval between our assumption and its fulfillment, in the dimensionally larger world, there is an immediate realization of our assumption. The external reality instantly mirrors our assumption. Here, there is no need to wait 4 months till harvest. We look again as though we saw, and lo and behold, the fields are already white to harvest. In this dimensionally larger world, ye shall not need to fight. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation of the Lord with you. Chronicles 20:17. And because that greater world is slowly passing through our three-dimensional world, we can, by the power of imagination, mold our world in harmony with our desire. Look as though you saw, listen as though you heard, stretch forth your imaginary hand as though you touched, and your assumptions will harden into facts. To those who believe that a true judgment must conform to the external reality to which it relates, this will be foolishness and a stumbling block. But I preach and practice the fixing in consciousness of that which man desires to realize. Experience convinces me that fixed attitudes of mind which do not conform to the external reality to which they relate are not, therefore, called imaginary. Things which are not will, nevertheless, bring to naught things that are. Corinthians 1:28. I do not wish to write a book of wonders, but rather to turn man's mind back to the one and only reality that the ancient teachers worshipped as God. All that was said of God was in reality said of man's consciousness, so we may say that according as it is written, he that glorieth, let him glory in his own consciousness. Corinthians 1:31. Corinthians 10:17-18. But let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth, knoweth me, that I am the Lord, which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth. Jeremiah 9:24. No man needs help to direct him in the application of this law of consciousness. I am is the self-definition of the Absolute, the root out of which everything grows. I am the vine. John 15:1. What is your answer to the external question, who am I? Your answer determines the part you play in the world's drama. Your answer, that is, your concept of self, need not conform to the external reality to which it relates. This great truth is revealed in the statements, "Let the weak say I am strong," Joel 3:10. Look back over the good resolutions with which many past New Year's are encumbered. They live a little while, and when they died, why? Because they were severed from their root. Assume that you are that which you want to be. Experience in imagination what you would experience in the flesh were you already that which you want to be. Remain faithful to your assumption so that you define yourself as that which you have assumed. Things have no life if they are severed from their roots, and our consciousness, our I amness, is the root of all that springs in our world. If we believe not that I am He, ye shall die in your sins, John 8:24. That is, if I do not believe that I am already that which I desire to be, and I remain as I am and die in the present concept of self. There is no power outside of the consciousness of man to resurrect and make alive that which man desires to experience. The man who is accustomed to call up at will whatever images he pleases will be, by virtue of the power of his imagination, master of his fate. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. End of this chapter. Now, great chapter by Neville Goddard on imagination. And this is also a key one because it explains in depth how we need to place more importance on our imagination, more specifically on our consciousness of ourself, on our conception of the self we create deliberately. Because we all have a conception of self. Most of us have a conception of self unbeknownst to us, which means that we have beliefs, limiting or not, about ourselves. And the world relates and translates in a way that mirrors our concept of self. That's why the concept of I amness is so important. And that's why he quotes the Bible and says that if you do not change this, you will die in your sins. Your sin is not deliberately choosing your concept of self. So it is not really complicated to understand what is the concept of self. It's pretty much saying I am and what follows I am. So I am rich, I am poor, I am this, I am that, and you get to choose. The difficult part, however, is to say I am such and such, even if the reality denies your I amness, which means that even though after you read this, after you heard this, you understand and you can believe and can have faith that your subconscious and more specifically your consciousness and awareness of self is much more important than what you see, it can still be hard. Not only that, it is not something that you believe once and you can let go. Although that belief and that faith can become strong over time, and it will if you put in the effort of discipline, the world around you will constantly give you things that are not aligned yet with what you want, regardless of your level. Now, obviously, doing this a long time, you will get better and you will not be affected and react so much to what is happening around you, for you have understood and fathomed that what you see in your imagination is much more important. Not only that, what you see in your imagination and what you dwell upon in your imagination actually precedes what you will see in your 3D reality. So when you see something that you did not like in your 3D reality, you can now actually take this as a feedback, the contrast, as Abraham Hicks would say, and find a scene or an affirmation or script in a way that this will not occur again in the future after some time, obviously. And you get better at this. So that's why having the affirmation, I am the God of my reality, is one of the greatest affirmation you can use, because you have to understand that the Bible is not a historical event that was written in the words of Neville Goddard I'm just quoting. It is a psychological drama, again quoting from Neville Goddard. That means that the God we see in Jesus Christ is the God we actually are. We are Jesus Christ. I am Jesus Christ. You are Jesus Christ. We have the power within to create, because it's a psychological drama of consciousness. So when you say, I am this, you are this. For you cannot see outside of the construct of your reality. That is very important to understand. It is ultimately kind of a lonely concept almost, because if you were to put me in another room, even with a specific person, my concept of self differs from her concept of self, for example. And their concept of self is completely different from mine. And I cannot go and see inside the construct of her reality, and she cannot see inside of the construct of my reality. So if you were to believe in the parallel realities, what we see in our concept of self is our own world. And we can decide the reality we want to be in, regardless of what other people are doing or not. That's why if you were to talk about an event in the past with a friend who was there at the time with you, you might have completely different memories of it. And you're not lying, and he's not lying. He or she is not lying. However, these are the memories that have stuck in our minds. And you might believe that this occurred 100%. And this person too, even though we're talking about the same event, the same timeline, but it's not. The memories are completely different. Now there are similarities, but you may think that George was there, and he might think that George was not there. He might think that this happened, but the other person would believe that this did not happen. And you're still talking about the same timeline, the same event. And both of you were there. So it is important to understand that there is only consciousness, and there's only this awareness of this present moment. That's why revision is so important for Neville Goddard, because revision understands that the past is not necessarily something that happened. Now, I don't want to get into the details, because those details are not important, and they might seem far-fetched even though they are not, but they're not relevant to what I'm saying right now. Because of this past vision we have, and the difference between one person to another, even though we're talking about the same event, we can change the past to our likings for it to serve us. So if you see an event that you have been traumatized by for whatever reason, you can change and replay this event to your liking and change what happened in this liking. And you have emotion that stems from that trauma. But by changing the past, not only your emotion will change, but certain things in your reality will change as well. If, for example, your concept of self, and this concept of self is a poor mindset, a poor consciousness of being poor, because of past event, being broke, having poor parents, being distraught, being destitute, etc. If you change this concept of self in the past because of that memory, now not only the concept of self will change in the present moment, but your reality will shift as well. Now, it doesn't mean that you will wake up, as you see in Hollywood, in a completely different reality. It's just your reality will start shaping itself, you included, and the world around you will shape itself in a different way. You'll still be in this reality, but it will be shifted in a different way, so to speak. Not in a literal way, that it's completely different, as if you were to take the DeLorean back in the future and go to the future or the past. That's not what I'm saying. Your reality was just shift to be in accordance with your new concept of self, because you rid yourself of the old conversation that was due to one of the past events. But I digress. So it is important to understand that the main concept is that you cannot see or start a construct of your reality, and you are the God of your reality. By God, not so much the capital letter G, but the small one, because we are all gods of our own reality. It doesn't mean that you are God, that you tower above other people. You are God as they are God in their own reality. But in your own reality, the one you can feel, see, touch, etc., your inside world, you are the master of it. Now, saying that you are God of your reality might seem a bit arrogant and conceited. It is really not, because it's not God with a capital G, it's God with a minor G. What I'm trying to say, the Buddha said it best: the mind is the forerunner of all things. Or Ralph Waldo Emerson said it too: you are the sum total of your thoughts. So you have control on your thoughts, which in your world means you are the master of your own kingdom. None other than you are master of your God. What I mean by that, external circumstances, external people can influence your thought, condition even your thoughts through pressure, to social influence, etc. However, at the end of the line, you're the one who decide what you let in and what you don't let in, which is liberating, but it's also a huge responsibility, and you need to be accountable for your thoughts. That's why they say heavy is the head that wears the crown, but we all wear the crown in our own realities. So we have no one to blame, quote unquote, but ourselves if the reality does not shape the way we want it to be, because the reality will just mirror what we have inside. So once you understand this, and once you take over control, once you know that you are master of your reality, and I have to include myself, believing and knowing that you are the master of reality can be scary, because you know from a moment to moment basis nobody else is there but you to be able to shape this. Nobody can help you. What I mean by that, you can get all the information in the world, but the work and the effort and the discipline is only going to work through your own exertion. Now and again, don't put too much effort and don't coerce yourself, force yourself, use willpower for this. There are ways, but you still need discipline. And discipline does not mean coercion, does not mean willpower. Discipline is knowing to do the right things when you need to do them. And I don't want to get into the details of what you need to do. What I'm trying to say is for you to understand that, as Neville Goddard said, the most important thing is the education of imagination, which I've just told you, and the sustaining of attention, which I will not talk about now, but those are the two things you need. Education of the imagination, everything I just said, and sustaining of the attention. And the sustaining of attention can get better and better through practice and discipline, and it will get better. That's it for today. I am Sebastian. I am your manifestation, mindset, and meditation coach. If you want more information about me, coaching is available. Check in the description box below. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe for more of this type of content. I have YouTube shorts, I have podcasts, I have Instagram reels, I have TikTok short videos, etc. Thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon.